Matthew 16:21. From that time on, Jesus began to explain to his disciples that he must go to Jerusalem and suffer many things at the hands of the elders, the chief priests, and the teachers of the law, and that he must be killed, and on the third day be raised to life.
Jesus has just said, the Son of Man, he's referring to himself, the Son of Man is going to be betrayed into the hands of men, and they're going to crucify him, and he's going to rise from the dead. And then Peter pulls him aside and he says, the Greek here says that he rebuked Jesus. He rebuked him and says, no, it can't be this way, Lord. And Jesus turns around and rebukes him and says, get behind me, Satan. And he says, you're not thinking the things of God, you're thinking the things of man. Now, as a historian, I could look at this and say, there is a really strong likelihood that Jesus actually uttered these words because, number one, it's called the Criterion of Embarrassment. You have Peter rebuke his Lord. And then
Can you explain that to us, brother? What does Criterion of Embarrassment mean?
Criterion would be like a principle, okay, a principle of embarrassment. And that would be this. If you're going to make something up, you're not going to make up details that are going to be potentially embarrassing and discrediting to your account. Well, here, you're just not going to make it up that Peter has the gall to rebuke Jesus, and then Jesus turn around and rebuke Peter and say, get behind me, Satan. Now remember, Peter was the first leader of the church. And now you're going to write something where Jesus is going to call your leader that you want everybody to follow and respect, and Jesus is going to turn to him and call him Satan. You're not going to make this stuff up. So it's early, it's embarrassing in terms of what a historian would look at, and there's also, by Jesus calling himself the Son of Man, that's something that the later church didn't do, and it's not what people would think of the Messiah ahead of time. So this is what we call a principle that would be different or dissimilar from the Judaism before and the Christian church thereafter, and so it's uniquely from Jesus' lips. So these are just three reasons why we would accept this particular text as coming from the lips of Jesus, that it represents an actual historical recollection. And I could give you several texts like this where Jesus predicts his death and resurrection. So the bottom line is this, Cynthia. The Qur'an says that Jesus is a great prophet. Jesus predicted his death and resurrection. If Jesus did not die an imminent death and resurrection, that means he's not a great prophet. He's a false prophet, and the Qur'an is wrong. It is not the Word of God. The other option is that Jesus actually died and rose from the dead as he predicted. And in this case, the Qur'an is wrong because in the 4th surah it says, this didn't happen. God only made it appear as though he were dead. So in either case, the Qur'an is mistaken on this. It can't be the Word of God. Jesus actually died and he rose from the dead. The historical evidence seems to support this. I've only given you a tiny little bit of it right here. We can give you much more on this.